that the thing about Gordon Brown is that he has got a face for radio. Which seemed to be sort of damning with slight faint praise about him. Problem, really, that if, in terms of image, that Gordon won't do that well. I just wonder how well you think Gordon Brown will do.
I think you need a brain, don't you? And I think that's going to be one of the differences. I mean, in all this business of airbrush with Cameron, of course, he says he has a baby face. I think it's a baby mind I would worry about. But I would have thought that what we're likely to see now, I think it was right that the American one weren't exciting. No. And but I think there's a clear difference beginning to develop here. If I can say with what Cameron has said today, the difference between big government and small government and the delivery of these services.
John, I'm going to stop you because there's a problem with the microphone, which we're going to change now. I just want to go to David Laws now and get your view on all of this. And while we just sort out minor technical problems, it's not always a problem. You can say that can't hear John Prescott, but apparently we're struggling. Oh, come on! It's all in jest, John Prescott.
I'll have to be connecting.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we'll get it sorted out. The floor manager's on. Everything's happening here. David Laws, I mean, I'm just interested in when you were playing David Cameron in the rehearsal for Nick Clegg. I mean, you were obviously working with the format as well. I just wonder whether you think the format itself will be a barrier to it being a lively kind of thrusting exchange.
I don't think it needs to be. I mean, actually, I think that the opportunities you get are quite good. Firstly, to explain your policy in a bit more detail than you do usually in the House of Commons on Prime Minister's questions. And secondly, there are opportunities to come back on the other speakers and to engage in a debate. And one of the things they seem to have changed over the last few weeks is that the open debate, which was initially going to be a very rigid 4 minutes, regardless of whether the subject was exciting and controversial, is now going to be much more open-ended. It could be shrunk, it could be increased. So I think this is quite an important opportunity. And while we don't know whether it's going to be game-changing, I think it is more likely than any other event between now and polling day to change people's views. So all of the political leaders will be going in very nervously and with high expectations of what they should be delivering.
JP.
Yes, it could be game-changing if that's the case, because I think there's an awful lot of people who are trying to make up their minds, if we take the evidence from the polls, and they would want to look at this, and the core votes on the other side will probably confirmed in their view about what they're going to do. But those that were wondering about it will watch this, I think, to see what are the differences. All too often there is no difference. What Cameron said today clearly shows there is a difference. He's rejected Thatcherism, he's rejected all those kind of things, and you've got an issue of big government and small government. We're very clear about that. We need big government to deliver on many things like education and health. So I think that really brings it into a rather polarisation of the view of government.
But there is a big difference between the American presidential elections and this. In America, they don't have the sort of Prime Minister question time setup. So the public is sort of used to the way that Nick Clegg looks, the way that Brown looks and Cameron look in debate. They never got that with the presidential stuff, but it's the first time they ever come together, go head-to-head. So the public, in a sense, has formed a huge judgment about what they think of the capabilities of these people already. That's why I'm saying that it would take a major issue, a major mistake, if something is going to happen to change. And my general view is I think it will confirm people's opinions rather than change them.
I'm just going to try and hold this up to the camera, if I can, which is the rules for the prime ministerial debate. Yeah. I think, frankly, lawyers have found shorter documents when involved in multinational takeovers, really. Because you've got, 13 points on audience selection, then you've got another whole bunch of points on the audience role. Then there is it's absolutely laid out what the structure of the programme is, what the role of the moderator should be, and so it goes on and on and on. So it looks like it's being ruled to within an inch of its life. John Prescott,
I think it's to prevent you people deciding what the audience is, and then if you look at some of the programmes we have...
What do you mean, us people?
Well, I'm going to say the people who select for Question Time and all these, you've only got to look at the audiences. What they want is good television, so they look for the people who are likely to make a row, who've got very severe differences. And I think basically what will be different this time is the time that allowed to the people, a proper debate. I think, unfortunately, like in Prime Minister's Question Time on most programmes, you get a couple of minutes and you can't really answer
How important is it, not what takes place in the debate, but the sound bites that appear on the bulletins later that evening? And would you advise go in with a couple of well-rehearsed sound bites that you've got ready to off-pat, that will deliver your killer blow?
Well, I think soundbites are an important part in the politics.
Everyone
That's the
will
way
have
the media
soundbites.
played it.
Everyone
Is this
will
a
have
DIY government? You know, the kind of thing, is that what's being offered? People will find easy ways to interpret what is going on. And if you get a very good line, by the way, it's very easy for the media to present that as a very killer point, if you like. And I'm sure that happened in American television, and it will
I
probably
just got
happen
a
in
question
ours.
for each of you. In that Gordon Brown, as a communicator, he's not always that easy in that he kind of is very great at reeling off piles of statistics, but not that good at engaging with ordinary people. And I wonder whether David Cameron will have exactly the same problem, maybe to do with class, maybe to do with background, that old Etonian thing, about whether that will count against him in talking to ordinary people. John Prescott, your views on Gordon Brown first.
No, I think, well, Gordon, in Prime Minister's Question Time, people have put him out as a pretty serious guy and talks in a serious manner. He has mellowed a bit, if you like, in trying to get and using a certain amount of humour. But Gordon is Gordon. What you see is what you get, and you'll be making a judgment. And I think that's the same for the Cameron. He may be slicker in some of his presentation, but what is at risk here, or what is at judgment, is about the substance of each man and what difference they would make to deal with the kind of politics. That's about character.
I think there's one difference as well between them on this, is that Cameron went through this when he was standing for leader. They had these debates with David Davis. So he's perhaps a little more used to the idea of having a television debate than maybe in the sense that the others have quite been. But he's a good performer. There's no question about it.
Didn't he lose that debate to David Davis, though?
Sorry?
He lost the debate to David Davis.
No, I don't think he did. I think again, it's the question about whether you thought somebody spoke in more detail or somebody actually gave across a better presentation. I think David Cameron presents very well. I think we know that. And I think the key for him is therefore not that he presents well, that he keeps it under control. He has enough facts. I mean, do you remember the debate between Reagan and, I'm trying to remember who it was now, Carter, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he stopped Carter dead in his tracks by saying, there you go again, because he's reeling off fact after fact after fact. And he knows the television. The television doesn't really take too many facts.
Yeah.
It likes a sense and a theme and a sense of the individual. And I
This is
think
an
that's the
opportunity.
key to tomorrow.
David Laws, I just wanted to ask you,
Yeah.
because you did play the role of Cameron in the rehearsal with Nick Clegg. Who won? Did you beat Clegg?
Naturally, Nick Clegg won every single time. I mean, let me make 2 points about it. One, slightly party political, which is that I had to keep on getting rebriefed on what Conservative economic and tax policy was. It changed so fast. But the second point, which I think is more important for the three leaders, is that there is an interesting challenge for all of them, I think, on whether or not they're going to try and confront each other head on, whether it's going to be a bit of a row, and whether sparks will fly as they do in Prime Minister's Questions. The risk with that, clearly, is that it will turn off voters and viewers, and therefore it's going to be very interesting to see how all three of them deal with that issue.
The detail's quite important. When you saw Cameron launching his paper, and he was asked about the green tax out of his manifesto, he had to turn to the Chancellor, who didn't know either. So if you don't get the detail right, and things that you should know could be quite difficult for those who don't
Just
know.
very quick, all three of them very, very nervous tonight?
Oh, I would have thought so. I mean, it may be a damp squib, but it has the potential to be very, very important in this election.
Gentlemen, thank you, all of you, for being with us, sharing your